everybody, it's Sarah. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about all of the books that I managed to read in March. So I have read 10 books in the month of March, which is my biggest wrap up of the year yet, and that's pretty exciting. I normally read around like 5 to 6 books per month these days. I think the last time that I read 10 or over was in like 2019, so that's kind of crazy. I did read 4 mangas this month, which are pretty fast to read, so they're not like full-length novels, but they still count, you know, like mangas are still books. But without any further ado, before I turn this into like an argument video, let's dive into this wrap-up. The first 2 books that I read in the month of March were the second and third book to a series that I started in February, namely The Bear and the Nightingale series, and these books were The Girl in the Tower and The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. I do not have The Girl in the Tower anymore, so I'm just going to hold The Winter of the Witch for now, but I really love this series. In case you don't know, I read the first book a couple of years ago and then I never kept on going with the series, but this year I actually decided to reread it and then try to read the second and third book, and I am so glad that I did, because this fantasy series is now honestly one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. I really enjoyed it. In case you don't know, in The Bear and the Nightingale we follow our main character Vasia, who is trying to save the magic from disappearing from her village, because if she doesn't save it then dark forces are going to creep in. But the problem is there is a priest now in her village who is trying to force people to converting to Christianity, as they often do, but the many magical creatures in Visia's village are telling her that if she doesn't stop him, they're all going to suffer the consequences. And basically in the second and in the third book we follow what happens after that aftermath, and it is so good. I really enjoyed the second and the third book. They are so much more fast-paced than the first one. The first one was very slow, and I kind of had to like not force myself to keep on reading, but you know, try to stay captivated, which to be honest wasn't that hard because the atmosphere in this series is absolutely amazing. It's so beautiful, the writing is so whimsical, and it really feels like you're in a dark winter night the entire time. That's the only way I can describe this book series. So needless to say, it is perfect to read during this time of the year. But like I said, the first one was very slow paced. The second and the third book were crazy. I could not put them down because there were so many plot twists, so much like political scheming and magic interference, and it was so amazing. The romance in this one is also great. I'm not normally a very big fan of like the older god-like male character and the younger female character, but Catherine Arden really got me with this one. I was invested. There was so much angst, so much pining. So yeah, would highly recommend these. They are incredible and perfect to read in wintertime. Then moving along from there, I read We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee, which was our book pick for the Tea Leaves Book Club for the months of January and February. This is a YA historical fiction novel that follows these 14 Japanese American teenagers after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, when they are forced to go into camps with their family in the United States. This was absolutely amazing. Obviously we had the live show for the Tea Leaves Book Club, so I will leave it linked up here if you would like to go and check it out. I feel like this is one of the very rare World War II historical fiction novel that focuses mainly on characters of color, at least of the ones that I've heard. I feel like most of these books are centered very often in Europe and they center European characters, and I was so happy to see a different perspective for once, because the incarceration of Japanese American people is not something that we hear often about when it comes to World War II, I feel like, especially in fiction. So yeah, this was absolutely amazing. The writing was beautiful. I loved all of the different characters that we got in here. I loved all of their anger, all of their fierce will to live despite everything that was happening to them. I just really got attached to all of them. It was heartbreaking, it was beautiful, and so meaningful. So I would definitely recommend this book. The only thing that I would say though is that it got a little bit confusing sometimes because we had so many different perspectives, but I think that what this book does so well is to show all of these different perspectives and give all of them power and importance. So I would definitely recommend this book. It was so amazing. It brought me to tears so many times, to be honest, and yeah, it was absolutely perfect. Then the next book that I read was Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong, which is the sequel to These Violent Delights, and this is the conclusion to this duology that is kind of like a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Shanghai with gangsters, families, and it was so much fun. I definitely understand why so many people love this series so much. I personally found it very, very entertaining and such a strong YA debut. I feel like the historical context that Chloe Gong sets up in these novels is absolutely fascinating. It has so many details which I find so impressive. All of the characters are also very endearing. I am not the biggest fan of the two main characters. I enjoy them. I think they're very great, but they were not my favorites. I was personally really rooting for all of the side characters in this one, and I found that the second book was a very satisfying conclusion. I also love all of the little Shakespearean inside jokes that we get in this. I thought it was super well done, and I will definitely be checking out other books by Chloe Gong, especially I think that she has like a adult debut coming out next year, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But this was a solid YA historical fiction fantasy duology, and I would definitely recommend it. Then the next 4 books that I read were all manga, and they're all part of a series, and this series is the Yona of the Dawn series. I have read volumes 1 through 4, obviously, as I said, and it had been so long since the last time I had read manga. I think the last time I had read manga before this was when I was like 14, so that was 12 years ago, which is kind of crazy. But I have heard Hannah from A Clockwork Reader mention these so many times on her channel lately, and I also knew that Mary really enjoys this series, so I decided to give it a go. This is basically a fantasy series that follows Yonah, who is the princess of her father's kingdom, and at the beginning of the series she is forced to flee because of a tragic event that occurs in the palace, and so she runs away with her bodyguard, and the story kind of goes from there. I'm not really far into the series, obviously. I think that this has like 24 volumes or something like that, and it's not even completed yet, I think, but so far I really enjoyed this series. I think that the world building is very interesting. I love the characters. I think they're very endearing. Obviously, I would have to keep on going to really get into the plot because I don't feel like a lot has happened so far. I feel like we're still kind of, you know, getting introduced to the world, and all of the characters are going to play a role in the series. The only negative thing that I will say though is that one of these male characters really needs to have a talk about consent, because oh my lord, some of the things that he said to the main character were really making me cringe, and I have heard this critique from other people who have read the manga, and apparently it gets better, which I really do hope, because if it keeps on happening I'm gonna get frustrated. But nevertheless, really enjoyed these, and I'm intrigued to keep on going. Then the next book that I read in March was Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I am not going to be talking a lot about this one because, to be honest, I don't really want to, and I also have an entire vlog dedicated to my reading of this book, so I will leave it linked in the cards in case you want to go and check it out. It was kind of a roller coaster, but I ended up being very disappointed by this book. I thought that the writing was too simple for my taste. The characters were super bland. Nothing really happened, even in terms of character development, which I found very disappointing, and yeah, I didn't enjoy it. I don't want to talk about it anymore, so we're just gonna move on. And then finally, the last book that I want to mention in this video is The Queer Principles of Kit Webb by Cat Sebastian. I actually finished this book this morning, and I really enjoyed it. This is a historical fiction romance that follows these two characters who basically plan a robbery together. Basically, we have Percy, who is a rich man who wants to steal something from his father for revenge, and we have Kit Webb, who is a retired highwayman, and Percy hires him to do this job, and obviously, as you could imagine, they fall in love. This was such a fun book to read. I really enjoyed the two main characters. I felt like they had a lot of depth, which I don't necessarily always find in historical romance, so that was very refreshing. I also loved all of the twists and turns that we got into this book because there were so many reveals, so many scandalous things happening, which I was not expecting. It added a lot of action to the plot, which I really enjoyed, and overall the writing was funny. There were so many sweet moments between all of the characters. So yeah, this was tons of fun, and I will definitely be picking up the sequel when it comes out later this year because there is more to this story and I am eager to discover what it is. Alright, so there you go everyone, that was my March wrap up. I feel like I did that pretty well. I did that pretty fast considering the fact that we had 10 books to talk about. So I hope that you really enjoyed this one. Definitely let me know what was your favorite book that you read last month in the comments down below, as I would love to know. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe and I will see you in my next one. Bye!